It's not another Buffalo podcast, hosted by three of the most underqualified sports personalities this side of the canal. With John.
There's no way in hell that I can leave that in, right?
You don't think so?
Well, to quote Rage Against the Machine, what better place than here? And, what better time than now?
And Brando.
We have this trust built on, whatever it is, like Bibles and gold bricks and whatever Brandon Bean's drinking over there.
All right, welcome back to Not Another Buffalo podcast. I'm John. I'm here with my buddies, Pat and Brando. We're filming this on a Wednesday evening. Episode will come out Friday. This episode is brought to you guys by Small City Real Estate. If you're looking to buy, sell, or manage property in Western New York, you got to call my guys at Jkorz at 585-409-1088. Also want to let you guys know that that house that we advertised a couple of weeks ago with the cool backyard, chipping availability for you golfers out there. It's in Batavia, New York. It actually just had a price drop. So it's available for under $200,000 now, which is a great price if you want to move to Western New York or if you want a new place in Western New York. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1,422 square feet, and it is on West Main Street in Batavia, New York. So if you might be interested in that, I'll put the Zillow link in our show notes so you can check it out. And of course, the listing agent on that is going to be Jkorz, and you can call him at 585-409-1088. So here we are, guys. By the time this episode comes out, it's going to be less than 1 week to the draft.
Crunch time.
Yep. Sabres news. We had Don Granato fired. That kind of took me by surprise. Considering they called the press conference with him, and then all of a sudden, I don't know. Can you imagine being on a Zoom meeting at work and you're still on the invite or something like that after you get fired? What are you supposed to do there?
True. Make it tea time.
Right? That's what I'd be doing.
It's like one of those guys that gets traded halfway through a game, like a baseball player, a basketball player,
Yeah, it's pretty funny with the Flyer. Were you going to talk about the Flyers last night, Brando?
Dude, it's devastating. I don't know if anybody follows this. It's a Detroit thing. So my Red Wings haven't made the playoffs in 7 years. They are the second longest drought in the NHL. To anybody guess who? Can anybody guess who?
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's 7 years compared to the Sabres 13. So the Wings had a 9-point cushion going into the playoff race, and they lost a bunch in a row when their captain got hurt, and they had to win maybe 6 of their last 7 games. And dude, they were winning their games. They scored. They played Montreal back-to-back to give themselves a chance. They had to win both. Their first game, they tied it up, empty netter. So they tied it up with their net empty with a minute to play, won it in overtime, 5-4. Following night, last night, they did the exact same thing, but they scored with 3 seconds left off a face-off to send the game to overtime. Then they won it again. The call by Ken Kale and Mickey Redmond, it kind of went viral because of how poppin' the Detroit arena was to stay in the playoff race. And fucking John Tortorella not paying attention. They were already eliminated. Pull their goalie in a tie game 1-1 against Washington, and Washington scores an empty net goal to eliminate Detroit from the playoffs after Detroit, it was just out of a movie, man. This is one of those things, if Detroit could have got in, they could have gone on a run. You see St. Louis do this and they win the cup the same year, and no one was beating them. Their players were stepping up. So that was tough. I was upset about that. I don't know. This is not a Detroit conversation, but my Red Wings were heartbroken last night, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's tough. Ugh.
Danny Briere pulling strings to make sure that,
Yeah.
Right. Half these old Sabres guys are all GMs now, right?
There's 4, I think.
That's crazy. Oh, man. And all those guys were playing the last time. The last time the Sabres were in the playoffs, they were all still players at that point.
It's funny, though, because they weren't on our team. We didn't have any of them.
Yeah, they were gone by then, obviously. But yeah, no. Cue the Better Days song. Cue the Goo Goo Dolls. Yeah, cue the piano. But all right, well, Brandon, you said you had some trivia. Do you want to start us out with that?
It's actually good trivia because it leads right into this. So I said Detroit has the second longest drought for the NHL playoffs. It's 7 seasons, but we are talking trivia today. I saw a post. They broke it down by city and by total seasons. So if you have 4 sports teams in your seasons, it counts as 4 seasons in 1 year. So I want to know, and I will give you number 8, number 7, and number 6. But I want to know the top 5 cities with the longest championship droughts. And number 8 is Detroit at 60 seasons, and it's 15 years because the Wings won the Cup in 08. Charlotte is at 62 seasons, which is 35 years. Cincinnati is 33 years and 65 seasons. So that's 8, 7, and 6. I'm looking for 1 through 5, and I will tell you how many years and how many seasons it's been.
Okay, so it's championship drought, not playoff drought.
Championship drought.
Okay, I feel like that almost makes it a little bit harder. But I'm going to go, first of all, the bottom of this list is Boston. Like the very bottom of this list is Boston. It's got to be.
Well, I would say the very, very bottom of this list would be Kansas City, considering they've won the most recent championship, right? Their playoff drought's like 0 seasons, 3 months.
Okay, so it's current. It's current. It's not
current.
like
Current,
not all
right
time
now.
years without a championship.
Right now, correct.
I just want to know what Charlotte team won a championship that has them.
I don't
off
think
of
they
this
have
list.
one. I think it's 35 years
it's
of
just
existence.
the inception.
With no championships.
All right, so Chicago got the World Series a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
which was hilariously enough predicted by Parks and Rec when they had their season that took place in the future. Let's see.
Seattle?
So
No.
obviously we got to find where Buffalo is on this list. The Bandits don't count, right?
Bandits
Because it's
don't.
4 major sports.
Unfortunately, I would consider
so
the
you're
Bandits
talking-
a major sport in this city, though, because they
So you're
sell
talking
out.
like the 60s AFL championships for the Bills, right?
Correct.
Is the last Buffalo
Back-to-back.
sports
So-
championship.
Buffalo comes in at number 2, and it's really interesting because they really should be number 1. It's 118 seasons over 58 years. But there's, I would probably say this is a little bit more. It might be, how long were the Braves in town for? Maybe
I was
7
actually
or
going to
8
ask
years?
you. I was going to say, yeah. You're not counting the Braves there, right? Because
No, but then again, the Braves left and then won a championship. So that would be
True, and we're very close in the late 70s.
the Buffalo City of Sports, the 2 teams, 118 seasons, 58 years, comes in at number 2 in the country.
All right, give me Cleveland.
No, the Cavaliers won it recently.
Cavs won.
Oh,
They
you're right.
won the
All
NBA
right,
Finals.
you're right. Okay.
Where is somewhere that you wouldn't want to be?
Somewhere
The
without-
number 1 team, here, I'll give you a tip. Number 1, they have 4 major sports. And I want to say one team on here only has 1 team, and it's baseball. Another city on this list has like 9 teams. And another city on this list.
Slow down. I'm not going to be able to keep track of all these.
sorry.
Give
I'll
us
save these
as we get them.
Okay.
Give me Phoenix, Arizona.
I was going to say this city on the list is losing a franchise right now, and that would be Phoenix.
Okay.
And it's
I
been
have a Coyotes hat. I should wear it in solidarity next episode.
22 years, 87 seasons. And that includes the Suns and the Coyotes.
Well, because when you think about it, the Suns. Well, no, that's not true. Well, Phoenix, are you counting? See, this is difficult. I don't know if I agree with this because where are the Diamondbacks? Because they won the World Series
Arizona.
in what,
They're not in
2001?
Phoenix. They're not in Phoenix.
So where are they? Are the Diamond? Hold on.
Let's search
Hold
this.
on.
That's a good question. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you have Kurt Schilling.
Yep.
Are they in enough of a suburb of Phoenix that it doesn't count as Phoenix?
It's also interesting because, again, it goes by number of seasons.
Yeah,
since the
Chase
last
Field is in
one.
Phoenix, Arizona.
So still, though, it's still 22 years and 87 seasons. So they're number 5.
Gotcha. Yeah, because it's like that combined with their other droughts, right?
Yep. So good catch, Pat. That's good to know their last championship, but they are still qualifying for this list.
All right. What about Salt Lake City?
No.
That's
Yep.
true. That's
Utah.
true. The Jazz have never won anything,
But
but
they
I
don't
guess
have
it's their
enough.
only team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enough years active.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. I don't even know. Dallas, maybe?
Nope.
No,
90s.
the Rangers won the.
And the Rangers won it in the 90s
Yeah,
as
the
well.
Rangers.
Okay. How about you said baseball only, although they do have a hockey team. How about Columbus, Ohio?
They have not been in existence long enough
Okay. Cool.
to qualify. But that would be probably close to 22 years as well because they came in 99, I think. 98. Maybe 2001, somewhere in that ballpark of turn of the century.
Minnesota, Minneapolis.
Minnesota, number 1, 119
Wow.
seasons and 32 years.
Jeez.
Yeah. One of the Twins, Kirby Puckett. I don't know. I just know he's I have a baseball card of Kirby Puckett and there's like a World Series,
Holding the championship.
That's all I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known it was the Twins that broke the drought. So I don't know. I'm as a Detroit fan, that city is very much a rival for us. So, the Twins, the Tigers, all that crap. So
Well, aren't the Timberwolves? They're going to the playoffs pretty strong here,
they're pretty
right?
good.
So
They're pretty good. Yeah. So, but they're
The
number 1. You have
Wild
number
are-
1 and number 2. You got Buffalo and Minneapolis.
We still need three, four,
and you have
5.
5. You have 5. You have Phoenix. So you're missing the middle 2. Again, the 2 clues for these 2 cities. The number 4 City has a ton of sports teams. They just haven't won it. They're only 12 seasons removed, but they have a lot of teams. So it is
New York.
Yeah, the Yankees.
Gotcha.
Right? They win the last one. And then the number 3 has
Only a baseball team, you said?
Yep. I do have another clue when you're ready, but it'll probably give it away.
Well, my question is, so the Florida Marlins, like they're in Miami. And so when you think about that, I guess the Miami Heat, like you have the Heat, you have Panthers. They haven't won it since like 2010. So I guess that's 12. Nah,
Heat won it in 2013.
13? Okay. Yeah. So but they only have like 3 teams, I guess, down there. They don't
What about like Orlando or something like that? I forget.
True. Orlando's good. That's a good guess, Johnny. I can't think of.
Actually,
the Magic have never won
Orlando, I want to say they've never won it either.
No,
but they're not in existence.
But they're not. Yeah. They don't have a baseball team, obviously.
And I like baseball enough that I should know this.
Baseball only cities. Okay, you just got to help me. Is it East Coast or is it like Midwest or is it West Coast? West Coast. All right. What about? Oh, let's see.
Padres.
Nice.
What city are we in? San Diego.
San Diego.
Yep.
Lost the Chargers. That's right.
My clue is they lost the Chargers. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty good. And I just think it's fascinating how Buffalo, with only 2 sports teams, makes it to number 2 on the list. So which city breaks this drought first?
Well, you know what we hope it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Detroit. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying, come on. You know, you got to see the Pistons win it. You got to see, the Red Wings win it.
Not just
you
win
got to see the
it.
Tigers in the World Series a couple of times.
Yeah, Tigers messed up, though. So
that's good trivia, Brando. So read off the top 5 again.
Phoenix at 5, New York at 4, San Diego at 3, Buffalo at 2, Minneapolis at 1. And if you want to go deeper, Cincy at 6, Charlotte at 7, Detroit at 8. Yeah, Pat,
Gotcha.
I was very spoiled. The Wings didn't miss the playoffs till I was like 23. They were a dynasty. The Pistons take down the best team almost ever, the second best team ever in NBA history.
Kobe's Lakers.
And you saw the Tigers come inches away multiple times. And the Lions almost went to another Super Bowl this year, but they just, Reynolds drops the ball on 4th and 2. So.
Oh my God.
That's what I'm saying. 24/7. That's going to be their 13 seconds.
I would. Okay. Question. Would you rather have it be a coaching error like we had or a player dropping a ball?
Yes. Or just blowing a 17-point lead, I feel like almost as worse because you're seeing at least 13 seconds. It only took 13 seconds really because once that game went into overtime, you already knew. You're just like, the football guards are not on our side. But like if you're talking the 24/7 game, like, that game, like you knew what was happening and like you just had to sit and watch it for 28 minutes of game time.
I'm telling you, I didn't know it was going to happen. I was planning a trip to Detroit. I bought my $100 Lions hoodie. I was like ready to rock and roll. They were dominating that game. But I feel like it's a lot easier to be like a player made a mistake, and players aren't perfect. They're put in high pressure situations. Maybe somebody makes a play. If you're an away team, your home team, whatever, the player makes a mistake. If it's a coaching error, your players give it their all, and then you mess it up for them, and that could blow up a locker room, which we have kind of seen now, where you lose trust in your coach and stuff like that. So I would probably choose.
He's no longer here, so
I would probably choose the player error than the coaching error.
Not a good option either way, though.
Correct.
Right? I mean, it's like pretty bad both ways. Lots of pain. But did you guys see this post that Diggs had on Twitter? He was asking for cheat meal suggestions, and somebody said buffalo wings, and then Diggs replied with the ranch.
God, this guy.
I did see that.
This guy. Oh,
I thought about tweeting, "You're a snack yourself, Stefan," but then I was like, I don't want to be too weird.
Can I talk about his tweet that he liked? I didn't get to say it in the last episode with the technical difficulties.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just feel like, again, I like Stefan Diggs. I got his jersey hanging in my living room. And throughout the whole time that he was here, outside of maybe the window of time where he was on the Sports Illustrated for Kids cover with Josh, everybody was saying that, something might happen. It happened in Minnesota. Something might happen. It might happen in Minnesota. And if he had a bad game, if he dropped the ball, we gave him a new contract twice. And you see the sideline stuff. And we talked about this before, the incidents with Josh, the losing trust in your coaching staff, the playing calling philosophy, and then to just get run out of town. Like I don't know anything. I have no insider information, but I really think he requested a trade after that Bengals game. The way things went down after the 13 seconds game, meeting with McDermott, missing OTAs he didn't even miss. He was there. He was talking to coach, and McDermott throwing him under the bus. clearly throwing him under the bus by saying he was mad, but they were talking. So the guy gave us everything he had. His whole prime was here. And all of these fans, instead of being happy and grateful about it, they were, judging him. Maybe he's into fashion, whatever, holding his quarterbacks. Deion Dawkins said Stephon Diggs raised the standard at One Bills Drive when he came in. So to see all the hate for him, people say such mean things on Twitter to this guy. They say such crazy things. He never once threw anybody under the bus. He knows probably more than anything. If there's any sort of dirt on Josh, if there's anything about relationships, if there's anything about the locker room, did he ever air it out? Never. Or maybe we want him to clear it up, but he kept it all inside. In his brain, he was the bigger man, right? He held his cool in an argument. He did not bash anybody. He never insulted his quarterback. He did this one time on the sidelines. He put his hands up because Josh overthrew him multiple times and missed him multiple times. When we run him out of town here and we say all these bad things about him, he was pretty professional the whole time that he was here, and we understand that we might be hurt, but understand where he's coming from when he thinks that, all these people calling him names, that he's the worst. Of course, he's going to, maybe like a tweet that says, you guys suck. We suck, so we'll see what happens. But.
I understand that. All right. Well, we actually have somebody new coming on the show here for a second. We have new Sabres correspondent. So let's get a Sabres update in here real quick.
It's time for the weekly Sabres update.
We're going to head straight out to our Sabres correspondent, Lando, in Buffalo. So Lando joining us. Lando, question for you real quick. We'll start here. Have the Sabres made the playoffs this year?
Hey, thanks for having me. No, they have not, but the talent on this team.
This has been your weekly Sabres update.
So if I use my monocle here to check the standings, I see that the Sabres were approximately 10 points off last year's pace. So like 5 games.
That's too funny.
So
for those of you who missed this, which is everybody actually, we're off air sitting here trying to figure stuff out, and I see Brandon holding up his glasses like this, and I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And he's like literally looking through one glass lens to try to read something on his computer. That's just funny. So anyway,
I can't see. You guys are lucky that God blessed you with vision, a good stomach, and that, those two things. Those two things are important.
Those two things.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So I can't see my computer screen. Yeah.
Thank you, Lando, Sabres correspondent. And we'll go back to Brando in Buffalo here in just a second. So we'll cut away from him for a second there. But anyway, I have a little something for you guys. I'll pull it up here. We kind of have been looking at this whole wide receiver thing, and there's been this debate of whether you need to go get a receiver in the first round or if you can get some kind of value in the later rounds, and you can pick and choose examples, whether it's Puka Nacua or all these other second round picks, which that seemed to be the norm for receivers that hit for second there. So anyway, I took the last 4 years, and I kind of wanted to take the other players out of the equation that aren't wide receivers, because one of the big factors here, and I feel like the difference between the drafts in the last maybe 4 years and then the drafts that go further back when we're talking about those big number wide receivers that were drafted more than 5 years ago and are on those big second or third contracts. Yeah. One of the biggest differences might be how much the position of wide receiver is valued in the draft, right? So to take that out of the equation, for the last 4 years, I just did a list of wide receivers, and I wanted to see, okay, how often is the first receiver taken the biggest hit? Or how often can you get a receiver later in the draft, and how far down that list are they, and where does it kind of fall off? So I'm going to share a screen here. I'll put this in the video version as well. If you're on the audio side, you'll kind of know what we're talking about. I'll read through some of it. Anyway, what you're looking at is the receiver. This is if all other positions were removed from the draft. So last year, for example, first receiver off the board was Jackson Smith and Jigba, then Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Jonathan Mingo, etc.
Wow. You know what can I tell you? Sorry.
Yeah. First impression.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yes. I forgot how late he was taken.
And not that long ago. He's super young.
Yeah, he is super young. Not even on that second contract yet.
Wow. So what is the color code here?
So the color code basically, and I'll kind of walk through this on the audio side as well. It's a list of all the receivers from each draft and the order that they were taken in. I have green colors in for receivers, and this is all opinionated, so we could probably do some back and forth on this if you really wanted to. But I just tried to fill in the receivers that were like, okay, that's definitely a hit, or that player is like more than a reasonable wide receiver. Some of them are superstars, some of them are not superstars yet, but it's kind of like everyone would universally agree that those are hits. That's in green. In light green, I have the best, quote unquote, best receiver from each draft. So for 2023, I have Puka Nacua, which honestly, that could have been Tank Dell. You could even make a case for Zay Flowers there. I feel like that one was probably
Zay Flowers is definitely below those two.
I would think so too, but I think you can make a case, and it's only one season, right? Like the further back you go, the more we have to fill in the blanks, right? So 2022, my kind of number one for that was Garrett Wilson. I think most people would agree with that. He was probably the most talented receiver to come out of that class. 2021, Jamar Chase, who interestingly enough was the first receiver taken overall. And that's the only case of that in this. And then 2020, I chose Justin Jefferson in a very, very loaded class. Yeah. And 2020 is very interesting. Let me read to you guys like the first 9 or 10 wide receivers taken in that draft. First off was Henry Ruggs III, who obviously isn't in the league. Second was Jerry Jeudy. Third was CeeDee Lamb. Fourth was Jalen Reagor. Fifth was Justin Jefferson. Sixth was Brandon Ayuk. Seventh was T. Higgins. And eighth was Michael Pittman Jr. And after that, it falls off like a cliff. And I don't want to compare drafts here because no two drafts are going to be the same. But if the receiver talent in this draft is what they're saying it is, then I have a feeling that the run on wide receivers is going to kind of look like that. And to give you guys an idea of where that cliff falls off, Michael Pittman Jr. was pick 34, I believe.
First or second pick in the second round.
In the second round. Yeah. So almost a first round pick at that point. So if you're thinking that the Bills are going to get a generational wide receiver in the second round, you might not be wrong. It's happened before, but you're probably not going to get one of the top 8 guys in this class at that position. And maybe not even the top 12 at that point if there is a run on wide receivers. But anyway, to give you guys an idea of like the names that come after that, it's Laviska Shenault Jr., sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, KJ Hamler, Chase Claypool, who I have yellow on this chart is like is reasonable players that either the book is still out on them and they've done pretty well, or like just reasonable guys. Can be a good number 2, number 3. Gabriel Davis, I highlighted yellow on here. I think he was more than a reasonable player on here. So anyway, Brandon, go ahead.
Chase Claypool gets a yellow highlight and Kadarius Toney gets nothing.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Yeah, if Kadarius Toney could be highlighted in red, I think he would.
Yeah.
And even though people, and like, don't get me wrong, I feel like Jalen Reagor could also be a red highlighted player, but he did return that kickoff. Remember that in the first Pats game?
Yes,
yeah, bro,
I do remember
that.
Yeah,
opening kickoff.
Yeah, that's
trash,
right.
Terrible.
The other interesting thing, John, I'm thinking here is, do you change your tune on staying put and drafting 2?
Staying in round 2?
So you say you draft one at 28 and then another one in like the third or the fourth or fifth round, right? You said you always wanted to. Does this change your mind? Because we kind of talked about this, right? If you go up, you superstars, right? You're looking at superstars out of the gate. I mean, there's a difference between CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, and Puka Nacua even. So Amon-Ra St. Brown is a superstar. But like George Pickens is not a superstar.
No.
Puka Nacua could be. But there's a big difference there. And, that's where we were kind of talking about it, right? Is it worth moving up to go get those guys? And, if you stay put and you have a 50% chance, right? If you're at 28 and you take one and then you take another one in the 4th or 5th round, it's like one of those 2 guys is going to produce for you, but are they going to be the superstar, right? Are they going to put you over the top?
Also, is there recency bias that has Rashee Rice in yellow as opposed to green? That would be my only other question about.
I don't know.
I feel like he's a green player.
He was right on the edge. I
second
think
leading receiver on a team that won the Super Bowl. I mean, I
think you could probably color him in green too. I just put him as reasonable, but like, yeah, I don't know.
I think if you're picking hairs here between Rashee Rice, I think Christian Watson would be the green guy. I think Christian Watson's better than Rashee Rice.
All right, well that's fair too. Again, like. I put this together pretty fast, and if I wanted to do it better, I could have decided by certain stats, but I probably would have had to do a combination of stats to make it fair to adjust for terrible quarterback play, for example.
Well, I like that you did it
these
like
guys.
this.
Yeah.
I like that you did it
So,
like this.
but anyway, it just kind of, it's an interesting thing. Again, if you're on the audio side, I apologize. Well, check our Twitter feed if you want to see this chart. Or maybe I won't. I don't know if I'm brave enough to post this on Twitter because I'm about to get roasted by Twitter people. I think Instagram would look at this and be interested, but Twitter, the armchair GMs might come out of the woodwork. Anyway,
I see you didn't
just
put
thought,
anything for Justin Shorter.
I have not put anything for Justin Shorter. That's a book is still out on him, but yeah, it was an interesting exercise because this takes all of the importance put on wide receiver in the draft. It kind of takes that out of it where it's like, okay, where in the list of wide receivers do I need to be? Because that can change. Like you can get through the first 8 wide receivers in the first round of a draft. Possibly that would be, you'd have to look up what the record is for number of wide receivers taken in the first round of the draft. Obviously we didn't hit that last year.
I don't think it was that far away. Okay. 7 wide receivers came off the board in 2004.
Okay. So that's a long time ago. I don't even know if you could count that as a similar precedent. How many were in 2020? I want to say
let's count everybody above Michael Pittman Jr.
Unless somebody was pick 32 through or 33, if T. Higgins was the top of this. Was T. Higgins a first round pick?
I think
Good
first pick
question.
of the second round, right?
Yeah.
Let me see. I only know because I was looking
I think
at this
he's a
the other
second
day.
round pick. I think you're right.
Let me take a
33rd
look.
overall. Good call.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that means that there was only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys taken in the first round. But again, 8 in the first 34 picks. So take that as you will. I think that you're going to see a similar number in this draft. So again, I'm not saying you can't find value anywhere in this draft, but I think that you're looking at either staying put or, I mean, in that loaded class, Justin Jefferson is the 5th wide receiver taken. So if you want to hang on to hopes there, like maybe your best hope for getting a generational talent is getting a player at 22 after trading up your second round pick of the following year.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your second round pick going to move you up? 10 spots max? Maybe not even that.
If it's the Minnesota's pick.
So I don't know. I think that's kind of what I'm hoping for. And then again, I'm still team use that second round pick on a wide receiver because you can definitely get some hits there. I mean, but you might end up with the next KJ Hamler.
I love the model that Green Bay did, right? They loaded up on rookie wide receivers. They were all rookies last year, and Christian Watson broke out. They had a couple of, they didn't have one big breakout guy, but I think they had depth there, and they're only going to get better, right? They're all under 24 years old. There's a few of them.
Yeah. Romeo Dobbs too. They got a couple of them.
Yeah, some of those guys were on here. I could have highlighted a couple more of them. Christian Watson, I had in yellow. I also, Romeo Dobbs as well is not highlighted, but definitely could have been. He's definitely a reasonable player. I also didn't go all the way through these drafts. There are like some 6th and 7th round picks that I didn't fill in here just because I was short for time. But I thought it was interesting to say the least. So
Green Bay picked Christian Watson in the 2nd round, Romeo Dobbs in the 4th round, and Samurai Toure in the 2022 draft. It doesn't have a draft round for them. And then they added Jaden Reed in the 2nd round, Dontavion Wicks in the 5th round, and Grant Dubois in the 7th round. So in 2 drafts, they added 6 guys.
That's crazy. And all after Aaron Rodgers left, right? Which is hilarious to me. Like, okay, maybe we do need receiver help.
That's funny.
They still don't go with the first rounders though, man. Which is crazy.
No, yeah. And again, like no guarantee you're going to hit on wide receiver. You might get a Jalen Reagor or a Kadarius Toney or a Jonathan Mingo who, nothing against Jonathan Mingo. Like he could still be a good player. Like he's only 1 year in the league, but it could be a Treylon Burks for the Titans.
I mean, they didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver in Green Bay. I mean, say what you want, young players, stuff like that, but they didn't have an 800-yard receiver. So,
but Jordan Love still had the best second half season of any quarterback in the NFL.
True.
It did take them a while to get there, though. So there was definitely some growing pains. But I think that they're going to reap the benefits of that next year, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're probably going to come out firing. They even played, I think they won a playoff game, didn't they?
Cowboys, yeah.
Yep. We picked that game, right? We picked that game.
Yeah.
Well,
very interesting stuff there. So obviously this might be our last episode before the draft, honestly, depending on when we decide to release our episode next week, whether we do it after the first round of the draft or what.
What's your dream scenario? I'll tell you mine first. Sorry, I asked you, and then I'm going to give you my opinion before you give me your answer. But
nice,
I like the city of Malik Neighbors, right? City of Good Neighbors. I keep seeing that around. That would be kind of cool. Romeo Odunze I want to say is better than Neighbors, but I don't think Marvin Harrison's making it. We got to be moving the farm, right? If we do that. And if we did do that, you're looking at New York, maybe the Giants making a Bills-like trade for next year, setting themselves up for a quarterback next year, getting that extra first round pick, probably your first and your seconds, both seconds. I don't know. Maybe you trade your first next year, 1 second, and then, a third. I don't know. It's going to take a lot. Yeah. Because Arizona wanted 3 first round picks to move up for their 4th overall pick.
Yeah, I don't really see that happening, to be honest with you.
Me neither. And you look at the Bears, they only have 4 draft picks at 9. So that's probably your sweet spot. If you can get to 9 and you go, maybe 2 second round picks for next year and you keep your first, or I don't know.
Very interesting with the way that draft picks are currently valued too, is the Bears actually have more draft capital than the Bills based on some of these charts, but they only have 4 picks and the Bills have 10?
Yeah, 2 top 10 picks will do that though, right?
Yeah, it's just diminishing returns exponentially as you go down. But I don't know if the value totally reflects that when you look at the hit rates of players and stuff like that. Yeah. So you definitely have a much better shot of landing the guy you want. But I thought the chart was interesting.
It is interesting.
And I hope it ends up being like another 2020 draft, because wouldn't that work out for the Bills? I mean, think about it. Maybe this is why Beane was comfortable moving on from Diggs. I mean, Brandon, you just said before, you think that Diggs requested a trade after the Cincinnati game, maybe 2 years ago. So
I could be wrong.
That's just speculation. We're not trying to put that out there. We don't have any evidence to back that up. But
I'm thinking
there was evidence that he was unhappy at that point.
That meeting in minicamp when McDermott threw him under the bus. That's my thought. And then the hands up and Josh missing him. Josh missed him. Didn't catch anything. But he's a professional and he didn't say anything. And he played out the season. He took another crack at it. So
I really think from Brandon Beane's perspective, he's looking at this like a 2-year kind of obviously he's looking years ahead all the time, but he's not just last year really felt like hey, we're going to put a lot of marbles, a lot of, eggs in this basket. And not so much that we're sacrificing the future, but think about what they invested in Von Miller and all these other things. Extending Jordan Poyer for 1 more year at that point when we didn't know if he was going to be back last year. So they really tried to keep the band together for 1 more year. Now I think you're looking at as we're going to bring a lot of young guys in, and hopefully it goes well this year. They're going to be competitive, but it might not be like, okay, they're not going to be up there with the Super Bowl odds if they roll out all these rookies. Yeah. They might be a little bit further down the list. But again, we've seen those teams overperform in the past. So I think they're looking at kind of like what you said, Green Bay, where if you get all these young guys in, get a year underneath their belt, you're going to look really good year 2 with all these guys that have all this experience that are going into year 2.
If you think about it, you're going to get maybe $50 million in cap space next year. You're going to get the Trey White money if you don't move for Ayuk. And again, we talk about this and we could do that and get Ayuk. I really like that idea. I'm still going to stick to it. You move up to 12, 14, get Brian Thomas Jr. and Brandon Ayuk. Anyways, I'm done. Yeah. But you're going to get that money of Diggs off the cap. Your cap's probably going to go up 10 million again. And now you're sitting pretty with a lot of cash.
I like that idea. And I just, in my head, I want this to be like the 2020 draft of wide receivers, right? Because you look at all those hits. It's like that's an 80% hit rate in those top 8 wide receivers. And there are some misses. Henry Ruggs was really talented, not in the league anymore. And Jalen Reagor, probably the least out of all those guys. But it's just like one or two of those guys could change the tide of your franchise. Definitely. If you're asking them to be your number one. So
the interesting thing about Jalen Reagor is the Patriots re-signed him, right? They gave him a 1-year deal for it doesn't have the yards. What's his money? Oh, I can't see it. Let's see.
Do you need to subscribe to PFR, Brando?
Wait, I don't think you have to pay for. I know you have to pay for StatMuse, but Pro Football Reference is like it's like you're like 7 years old reading. Like they never up. I kind of like that the websites always look the same, but in Pro Football Reference is a wealth of information. Like that's the best site if you're looking for stats for sure, but it does look like the webmaster in the 90s, just like.
Yeah.
Well, this is interesting. Jalen Reagor, 1 year, $1.29 million. And just look at everybody around him making boatloads of cash. And Jalen Reagor's like, I got $142,000 roster bonus.
But
and Justin Jefferson's like $142 million contract.
He's a victim of circumstance, though, too. I'm not saying that he's particularly good or particularly bad, but like, going into year 3 in Philadelphia and you have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, like, I mean, obviously they wouldn't have, drafted Devontae and brought in AJ Brown if they didn't think that they could do better, but like just landing in the right situation, which I hope, whoever we draft feels like, they're landing in the right situation, which I did have a question about that for you guys. Yeah. So I was at work, when I open up the web browser sometimes, I have like Microsoft Edge. So sometimes the headlines will come up and I'm usually working like 99.99999% of the times. But sometimes like a headline is so outrageous that I got to read it. And then it got me thinking. So you guys probably saw this about Deion Sanders coming up with a short list of teams that he would be okay with, Travis Hunter, who, I mean, I'm not saying he's Bo Jackson or anything, but he is, really generational athlete, at least at this point, and his son, Shedeur. Like, I mean, it is a little interesting that he did play for the 49ers, Cowboys, Redskins, Ravens, and Falcons. I mean, the Eagles didn't play for him, but still. But then that got me thinking, number one, where is the worst spot you think that a player could land in the NFL right now? And number two, what would be particularly enticing about coming to the Buffalo Bills? Other than Josh Allen, what other pieces around, I mean, just for the sake of that, let's say that you are a wide receiver. What is lucrative to you? Because if you're a wide receiver, you're getting drafted to the Bills, chances are, unless you get Brandon Ayuk, you're that number one guy right out of the gate. I mean, what, I just would like to hear from you guys what you think.
Well, first off, worst place to land, I think I would have to go Carolina off the bat. Just because of where their ownership is at right now and how they're just like, they just seem to not have anything going for them, like that weird debacle with Frank Reich and the end of his career there. And just not a great vibe coming out of Carolina. And I don't know if they're going to get it turned around. Whereas like a year ago, you might have said Washington, but at least they have new ownership and they're turning a corner, and at least it's going to be different. It might not be like amazing, but it's going to be different there at least. You're not going to have Dan Snyder running things. You're not going to have all the issues that they had there, hopefully, with, and that's not even to mention the stadium that they have that's falling apart while people are trying to watch football games in it. But as far as the things for the Bills, or Brandon, give your worst landing spot before I get into
so
that.
It's interesting you said Carolina, because they just drafted the second round guy, Jonathan Mingo, and he did not really break out very well, but he's got Bryce Young throwing him the ball. And like I've said it on here many times, you have to have the infrastructure in place for these young rookies to succeed. You need an O-line, you need a quarterback, and you need a coach.
Yeah. They
went 0 for 3. So the success rate of any of their rookies, I would be surprised. I would like that. That makes it so hard to rebuild. And unless you're throwing money at your O-line, stupid money, and you're hoping that the free agent class is deep enough to solve your problem a little bit, but like something's got to get fixed first. Then you got to fix the line before you can really do anything, I think. So the infrastructure there for Carolina was not good, but I'm looking around the league and I think I'm kind of torn because Washington's going to have another shot at a rookie quarterback, but they might not have the infrastructure there. I don't love their franchise. Everybody hates them, right? Dan Snyder's not there anymore. So maybe they turn a leaf, but I'm looking out west a little bit. Arizona, they're in a tough division. Kyler Murray's just like, I like to be able to see my quarterback over the line of scrimmage and maybe he can get the ball to me, but I don't want to play Call of Duty with you at all hours anymore. We're not in 8th grade anymore, but to go there, they have a weird offense. James Conner is going to get his touches. If you're a wide receiver, are you going to go there? Is the coaching staff in place?
No real true number one either, I guess, which is like,
so Arizona's on my list. I mean, if you're really looking, maybe Minnesota's on the list too. They're in a tough division now. Sam Darnold's your quarterback. You have a decent head coach.
Minnesota is interesting too, because
2 first-round
on the flip
picks.
side, if you're a quarterback, I feel like Minnesota might be the best place you can land out of any of these quarterback needy teams. You're getting Justin Jefferson to throw to.
Maybe if he doesn't hold out for his contract. And him and CeeDee Lamb are in this like, you sign your deal. No, you sign your deal. No, you sign your deal, because they both want to be the highest paid contracts. And I think that's really holding up the wide receiver market right now. And everybody wants to see what those two guys are getting. You saw Devontae Smith come in, at like 20 $5.5 million per season for Philadelphia. And CeeDee Lamb's going to come over that, and he's going to be the number one guy. And Justin Jefferson, he's like, you're going to make me the number one paid guy ever. And CeeDee Lamb's like, hold your beer, guys. I'm going to hang out here and hold out. So you might not get him. And if JJ McCarthy busts, which I don't think he will, I think he's going to be good. But if whoever they get busts, that could be an option. So that's a good point, John. It could be good or bad, but if you only have 1 year of Justin Jefferson, and then you take away your training wheels, you take away a 3-year-old's training wheels before they turn 5. I don't know. You take it too soon, they skid their knee. They don't want to ride the bike anymore, I guess. So, John, I have something here real quick. I have a Sabres thing. It's one more Sabres thing. There's a Twitter account. It's like Bye Jerry Sullivan. Active NHLers with the most games played, but 0 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Number one.
This was a couple of weeks ago. I think I might be able to name these guys.
There's a lot of Sabres on this list.
Yeah. Let's see. Ristolainen, Rasmus Dahlin is getting up there.
Dahlin is number 5.
Gergensen
is 2. Gergensen is 3.
Skinner's number 1, right?
Skinner's 1. Yep.
That's so
fancy name that's not on here is Brady Tkachuk. He's not a Sabre. Thomas Chabot, right. Philip Hronek, who's a Red Wing, Tage Thompson, Casey Middlestat, and Henry Jokiharju.
Oof.
So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 10 players with the most NHL games played, but 0 in the playoffs. Jeez. So with that being said, Lando says, what the Buffalo?
Yeah, I think that's on point. All right. So now that the Sabres have fired Don Granato, who do you guys think is going to be the next coach? And also, can you give me wrong answers only?
Pat LaFontaine. Wrong answer because he was here for 1 month and got sick of it and left.
What year was that?
Early on in Terry Pegula's tenure.
That's funny. What was his role on the coaching staff?
President of hockey operations, I think. And he's like, I'm done. This smells like shit. It looks like shit. I'm not going to be here. So,
well, I think we could all take a lesson from Pat LaFontaine.
Yeah. You want wrong answers only?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like the ghost of Herb Brooks or something. I don't know,
Maybe we can just get the actor who played Herb Brooks in Miracle on Ice to, or just Miracle, sorry, is the name of it. What's that guy's name? I can remember that guy's name. It's from Sky High, old flick, going way back there. Kurt Russell. Is it Kurt Russell? I think it's Kurt Russell.
I don't know. That's a great question. I have no idea.
Everyone's going to yell at me if it's not Kurt Russell. I think it is, but.
If you want wrong answers only, I'm looking at the 2006-2007 Ottawa Senators that I got because they got eliminated by the Senators in that year. I'm looking at Daniel Alfredsson, who was a coach at one point. I got Ray Emery, R.I.P. He's dead.
True. Mike Tyson on the goalie helmet too.
Yep. We got Chris Neal, who's a goober and a thug who averaged like 25 points a season and got his jersey retired by Ottawa for all his fights. Danny Heedley, Jason Spezza.
It's just some great household names right there. Yeah. Well, one more thing I wanted to get to before we sign off here was the NBA gambling thing. We had Jontay Porter, apologies again if I'm not saying his name right, get a lifetime ban. Okay, so on Wednesday, which is today, the NBA banned Porter for life after its investigation revealed that he had disclosed confidential information to bettors, limited his participation in at least one game while he was with the Raptors, and bet on NBA games while playing in the G League. And that's from ESPN.com, by the way. I want to give credit there.
Just the G League, man.
Well, that's what
he played for the Raptors.
Yeah.
He was with the Raptors, and he apparently limited his involvement so he could cash some unders. I think some bettor won like a bunch, like millions and millions of dollars, and that's why it came to light because somebody put a huge amount on his under for that night or whatever.
They better have made like 20 million or 10 million because, I mean, bad players in the NBA make a lot of money. So,
well, that's what I was going to, because it looks like he only ever started like 35 career NBA games. I just feel like it's a lot easier to lay the hammer down on someone who's not like the face of a franchise, because I feel like if Shoshai Ohtani didn't make, and I'm not saying that he did make, you know what I mean, decisions that maybe it was lost in translation, but like I feel like it's a lot easier. The Pete Rose thing, still people talk about how crappy it is. I just feel like you said, crappy players make a lot of money, but I do feel like it's like, whatever, it's easy to make an example out of someone like this because they're not as prominent of a player. Or on a team that was even in the playoffs, really. So,
yeah. Well, I think we've seen from the sport leagues that they're not going to pull punches on this stuff, because as soon as a couple of these stories comes out, it starts really undermining the credibility of your league at a certain point. Like, and not to a point where like you or I are worried about it, but think about the people who yell at their TV that this league is rigged or whatever. As soon as that bias starts to get confirmed and people like, then you might get some people who are a little bit really angry about it. We know that it doesn't go on a huge level.
No, but there's no consequences if you're a relevant player, though. There's really none. Like, I mean, Calvin Ridley, he was the highest paid wide receiver in this free agent class, right? And he bet on games.
They suspended him for a year.
For a year, though, not a lifetime ban, though. You know, like
he got to take a vacation and not get hit every day and cashed out for $70 million.
True. So I don't know.
I'm sure Atlanta was pissed, but
yeah. Oh man, and fantasy football people who had him in Dynasty, I'm sure, but again, probably not as much of a right to be pissed as Atlanta in that sense.
I mean, do you think it goes on frequently? Like, I guess you guys do Brando's bets. I don't really bet. Like, what do you guys think about the frequency of it?
I don't know. And again, we only know the people who have gotten caught, right? So we don't know if anyone's being smart about it. There's a really interesting documentary on Netflix. I think it's just an episode of a documentary. Brando, you might have to remind me what it is and what college team it was where they were.
Like Art Schlichter or whatever at Ohio State.
Well, there's the one. So it's Hoop Schemes, 1994 Arizona State basketball point shaving scandal. It's interesting because they would only do it by like 2 or 3 points. They knew that they could do it. It's a really interesting episode. That one and the one with the Tim Donahue referee, the gambling on Netflix. That one's the NBA referee mess.
Right.
When he gets involved with like the mob and stuff. Super interesting. Now, John, it's interesting you brought that up because I would say I have no idea if this is true or not. I just think that I've heard about it before in places, but the college game where these young kids are coming in and you have these 18-year-old phenoms being one and done because you're not going directly into the NBA. You know, you get some big money throwing at these guys. If you're, 18 and somebody's offering you $1 million to miss 3 free throws and nobody's going to find out about it. It's cash transaction, portal money, whatever it might be. And if you're getting strong armed, you take advantage of these young kids. But I don't know. Who really knows? I think it's a mystery of our society.
You're right on the nose there. It's like the opportunity for it to happen in that level of sports, I think, is far more frequent. And also because it's so much bigger of a thing. You don't have, it's not 32 teams, it's 3,200 teams and stuff like that. You have more opportunities to, get to players and that, or players have relatives. And again, the big thing being players aren't making a lot of money or any at that stage and might actually need the money, like because they're in a place where they're not, earning enough money to live or something like that. So whereas if you're in the NBA, that's not your situation, obviously. Now, my reaction to that is I'm surprised that there aren't more people doing this in the WNBA. Like where are the gambling scandals in the WNBA? It's like, that's been the topic this week has been the salary of WNBA players. But hey, if anyone should do it, it's them, right?
Make some more money.
Right.
Caitlin Clark's making dough, man.
Yeah.
So, but anyways.
Well, sweet. All right. If you guys don't have anything else, I think that'll do it for this one.
No, we're good.
All right. You guys can find us on most platforms at Not Buff Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. We should have some exciting announcements for you guys in the next coming weeks and stuff like that. A couple of things in the works. In the meantime, though, I appreciate all the reviews, subscribes, anything you can do. Like I said, when we were on Rumblings all the time and just had our listeners on, podcasts, we didn't really ask for any of that stuff, but it always helps out at this level because we're trying to get our downloads and stuff back up to their normal levels after the whole Rumblings debacle. So appreciate you all. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Yep.
And until next week, go Bills.
Go Bills.